What up, roomies? What if everything you've been through, every decision, every struggle was already written somewhere, and some people could actually access it? Tonight, we've got somebody who she says could communicate beyond this world, and not just connect, but help people transform their entire lives. But the real question is the transformation coming from you, or is someone guiding you? Roomies, welcome Jennifer Rose, medium, transformation guide, public speaker, and here to bless us all and teach us a little something. Hey Jen, welcome
Hello.
to Neighbors.
Hello, Ariel. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being on. I really appreciate you coming on. It's always a pleasure having people that have extra sensory abilities, and coming to enlighten us here over in the house. You know what I mean?
Awesome. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. It's a lot of fun talking about this stuff. So, yeah, happy to share the space with you.
We're definitely gonna have a lot of fun today. So, I know that you said that you had like an abridged version of like your origin story. So let the roomies know exactly like how did you get into mediumship, and like when did your gifts started coming to light?
Yeah, cool. Thank you. Um, when I was little, I had a sense that I was psychic and I was very, very sensitive, very empathic. But back then, if I kind of said, like, hey, I know stuff, people didn't believe me or they'd laugh it off because back then I would say it was less accepted within the culture and things, and is much different now than it, was back then when I was little too. So I learned to kind of keep it quiet. I did have some experiences as a child that I can remember. I wasn't one that was like seeing spirits all the time that I can remember, but I did have some memorable experiences that I would consider like out of the ordinary too. And I also had this ability to kind of like see what was inside of people and
Okay.
kind of reflect it back to them. I'm becoming more and more aware of that now because that's something that I do now, and I'm like realizing, oh my gosh, I've been doing that ever since I was little, and I just didn't even realize. I thought that was just me being me, but it was like the higher self of me already was working through me
Yeah.
back then. And so I learned to just kind of keep it quiet, keep it to myself. My mom was kind of supportive in some senses because like I was into astrology. So she found like a necklace that would match my sign. She'd buy it for me as a gift and this thing. So she was a little bit more open-minded.
That's dope.
But yeah. So that was helpful. But as a teenager and things like that, I pretty much, got good grades, went to school, pretty, pretty run of the mill stuff. But then, I'd go out and find myself at a metaphysical bookstore, drive over there, look around. So I kept kind of being called. So it was
Yeah.
always there. My interest in sort of metaphysics and new age things was always there. Um, Fast forward, raising a family, working, going to college, raising a family, and then finally the call started coming in really, really strong. I was
Okay.
seeing other mediums like on television, and I would have this just visceral experience inside of me, seeing the healing that it was giving. And I was like, I just knew I had to do it. It was just, and it was stronger than my fear of trying something so different and so new. So this was 2015-ish, 16, and I went to a demonstration and started developing a demonstration. So I was watching another medium live. I think it was James
Yeah.
Van Prague, actually, who's a pioneer medium,
Okay.
pioneer American medium that most people know about. And I took a class with him, and then I got myself into a development circle and went hardcore. Like I have a strong work ethic, and I go all in. So
No,
I
I
went
feel
all
you.
in.
I feel you. I'm exactly like that too.
I got the job done. And so I was taking tons of classes. I was taking healing classes. And I was just amazed by it all. Loved it all too. Put me in an instant transformation, instant spiritual awakening. And it's been, quite an adventure ever since. So I've been doing this, like 11, 12 years now too. Now I'm, teaching and branching out into live streams and, speaking all this kinds of stuff, running a Sunday service. It's crazy, but it's a lot of fun.
I
So
believe me, I get you. It's it's always super fun when you kind of like give into your passions and give into your calling, because even though you're working, it never feels like actual work. It just feels like you're
exactly.
developing this like cool hobby that's like sort of paying you, but it's also fulfilling you at the same time. It's always amazing. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, you got that exactly right. Because when you love what you're doing, it doesn't feel so much like work. I do sometimes get tired because I work like 7 days a week sometimes and
Yeah, I
without a
get
lot of
that.
breaks. But I love what I do and what I do, and then it lights me up every single time when I get to do what I do. And so it's like, oh well, that's why I do this. Well, that's why I do. So if I'm ever feeling a little bit tired, going, oh, I wish I had a vacation. Oh well, that's why I do this.
But make
So,
sure to take those vacations, though. You feel me? You don't want to burn yourself
yeah,
out.
yeah, I know. I did learn that last year, and I give myself most of August and around the holidays, December, January. I cut my schedule way back, and you'll find me at the beach, even if it's cold.
That's the best
So
place to be. You know what I mean? The beach
yeah,
is
yeah,
always,
love the beach. Yeah,
especially with the ocean, man. The ocean's a big
yeah,
cleanser. But
yeah. It is the best.
so just going back on what you said that you were able to see people's inner ability. So does your mediumship, does like your ability mostly reflect on like people's latent potential, or like helping them bring that forward?
So that would be so with my mediumship, I can connect with the spirit world, and so
Okay.
I could connect with your loved ones in spirit, your helpers or guides in spirit, the angelic realm. Even this happens more when I'm channeling. I will connect with like star beings or ETs as well too. That happens more when I'm in a trance state.
Okay.
When I'm working mediumistically, that's what I'm doing. I'm providing the evidence of their loved one's survival and bringing them an experience that is healing and uplifting for them. So it can be very life changing
Yeah,
for a lot of
definitely.
my clients as well too. With this other part, this has more to do with I would say my transformational work or my ability to inspire people to maybe help them awaken or maybe help them see what's in them versus the external searching that they might be doing. And so I don't know, it's just one of those traits that I was born with that I'm now
Mhm.
recognizing to have been something very spiritual back then. So it's just if I get tuned in, I can just see the essence of somebody, like their qualities that they bring, and just kind of verbalize it and reflect it back to them. And they just go, oh, because I've just been this mirror of the truth to them versus a mirror of illusions, if that makes
I get
sense. To
no, I get that.
Yeah,
I get that 100% is because, and I think,
yeah.
do you see that a lot of people validate themselves with like external external things versus like reflecting within themselves to like find out like what's their true essence?
Well, we all do that, yeah, and it's normal too. It's not
Yeah.
wrong. And I know sometimes in spiritual land, I call it spiritual land, we discourage that. We're look within, and absolutely we have to look within. But we have mirror neurons in the brain, and so from the time that we're born, we're looking for feedback to understand our world around us and how to fit into it and how to be in it, right? So that's normal. But we spend a great deal of our lifetime doing that, and then comes a point where we realize we need to do the opposite. We need to now look within us and maybe deconstruct some of the lessons or some of the programming or some of the things that we've been taught along the way that are no longer really working anymore. So we have to kind of deconstruct the reality that we've built and discover the reality within, and now bring the two in harmony. So your personality, your experience, your human self now is going to come into alignment with the higher self or the soul of you too. And
Mhm.
that's when things really start to get fun.
Nah, I believe it. And what, and just walk us through it. Like when you're starting off
Yeah.
with somebody, right? And you're, taking them on this transformational journey, right? To become like
Mhm.
more of their higher self. How does that begin? Is it like a lot of like shadow work, a lot of inner work, or is it like you like tap in and you'll be like, hey, listen, you're good at this, you're great at that, but there's this one aspect of yourself that you've been denying for like such a long time and you should really tap into.
Yeah. So yeah, I can look into people's energy and their auras and tap into like their different gifts and things like that. So I can see if they've got healing in their aura. I can see if they've got mediumistic abilities in their aura. I can see how spiritual and how open they are, how sensitive they are, all of that too. But shadow work definitely, self development, personal development. I don't see how to go along this road, this journey without it. And I know it's scary for a lot of people to see what's inside of them. They're afraid they're going to see something bad, and it's going to challenge their beliefs, their reality as they know themselves to be. And most people walk around hiding who they are. I did it too. We all do it. And we also walk around with beliefs way in the background, saying we're not good enough because we've taken those on from a young age. Could be from something very traumatic, or could be from something that we would look at as kind of small, but to a child it could be big, right?
True.
And so we develop those beliefs, and but the spiritual psyche is so complex and multidimensional. So we're this like intricate web or faceted diamond of archetypes and different parts and things like that. And so some of the parts are kind of like pushed in the background, and if we don't discover them, whether we how we judge them doesn't matter as much as discovering them and coming face to face with them and learning to love and accept them as they are. If we don't do that, they find a way to get, to make your life hard anyway. So
Nah, I feel you.
that's why people go, why did I do that? How did that happen? Who was that just then that came through me? Like that was the part of you that you were probably denying or repressing or suppressing too. So the parts won't have the same kind of power over us. Then we become in alignment with everything if we are willing to look inside and love what is. So we love what is so we can change what's
I,
outside of us too. So it's a combination of the light work and the dark work, if that makes sense.
no, it makes perfect sense. And
Yeah.
just just backtracking a little bit, right? When you said
Yeah.
that people have like, subliminal beliefs where they believe they're not good enough or they're not worthy of getting certain things, do those beliefs and does excuse me, do those beliefs kind of like block like things coming into your life? Like let's say, for instance, and this is the most common one, money, right? Let's say money. If you always believe
Mhm.
that you're not worthy of, you know, gaining money, will that like kind of like shut down like money coming into your life?
Mhm. That's definitely possible. I'm careful with the word block because it has kind of a sting to it, but maybe
Yeah.
that's a good word if it makes us actually want to change and are willing to maybe put some energy into transforming that and doing better with that too. But it definitely can cause some like self sabotaging behaviors or even create the reality around us that we sort of magnetize towards things that are going to make it harder to manifest or to allow those things to flow for us sooner. So you're right. Money is a big one, even in spiritual land.
Yeah.
Money is a big one too. I say that kind of jokingly, but because there are spiritual teachings out there that tell you that that's not important or you don't need that. And then with the law of attraction community that tells you, well, then no, it's okay. So some say it's not okay. Some say it is okay. It gets very confusing too. But that's why part of the work that I am sort of trying to also focus into now into the future is that spirituality could use some modernizing, like a lot of modernizing, a little revamping, a
I,
little
I get that. I get that.
you
A
know.
little 2026 in there.
Yeah, yeah. If it's not empowering and uplifting and encouraging you to fully live as you're human in this reality and really make the best of it so that when you go back into the consciousness aspect of yourself into spirit world, then I'm not sure if it's being of the best service for you too, because it seems like some of the teachings have been either changed or oversimplified or written in a way that keeps people down. And I want to lift people up.
No, I
I
get
want to.
no, you want to bring up the frequencies, you want to bring up the vibrations, and you want
Yes, yes, make
and you want
people
to make
feel better
sure that
about themselves, not
definitely
worse.
you want to make sure that everybody that you come in contact with or comes in contact with your work, knows that they're worth abundance and they're worth love and they're worth,
Yeah,
everything that they truly want and desire. You know what I mean?
exactly.
And yet again, and just going back to what you're saying, I do feel that some spiritual aspects, or at least like with the spiritual movement, I would say that we're kind of having now, that there
Yeah.
are some older aspects where they kind of tell you, you don't need abundance, you don't need certain things, but in 2026, no matter who you are, you're gonna need, some level of abundance, some level of coming in, because of the fact that, and yet again, I hate referring back to money, but just like money is a tool that helps people help people.
Yeah, and it's an energy, and
Yeah,
so yeah, so if those teachings are telling you something, that's just a belief. That doesn't make it true, right?
true.
And everybody has to pay their bills, and there's nothing wrong with having a nice lifestyle either, and there's nothing wrong with having the ability, to me, to be able to have money allows you to help more people.
True.
It gives you that much more ease and flow, right? So
Okay.
it's how you use it, how you think about it, how you treat it, how you respect it, all come into play. But um, unraveling our beliefs about money, that's a whole project in itself, because you'll get through a few and then you'll realize, oh, there's another one. Darn it, gotta unravel that
That,
belief too.
that
Where did
that's
that
a
one come
big that is a big fact. So when
from?
so when you're helping people like unravel like the beliefs that they had prior to, coming to you to ask for your help, how do you like help people, like besides like the shadow work and the light work, are there like any techniques or like tips that you have that help people like kind of like get out of their subconscious and kind of like reshape their beliefs about themselves?
Yeah, and I highly recommend that, anyone find somebody that they can support themselves. So whether it's a coach, whether it's a therapist, whether it's a guide, find somebody that you trust that can help you with that too. And there's a lot of different ways to go about it. But specifically, if somebody has, like a coach that's really good with doing integration work and parts work and things like that's really helpful too. Where I come in um, is helping people to learn to love what is,
Okay.
so that they can also change the outside, if that makes sense too. So I
No, that
practice,
makes
like,
perfect sense.
I have a phrase I call conscious immersion. And it's something that I came up recently with spirit that I channeled. And it's not like it's something brand new. It's just the way that we put it. So for instance, when you have an emotion come up because you've been triggered, or something's just, your higher self has said, hey, it's time to clear this, you have to feel it in order to release it and get it through your system, right? Most people are very afraid to feel, because that's existentially painful,
Yeah.
to feel emotions. And what's funny is that as spiritual beings, we're highly emotional, right? But
True.
the human experience teaches us that, this one's good, this one's bad, and these will kill you, and they
Yeah.
won't. But that's how we feel when they happen, because they feel so painful. And so I try to come in and say, it's like, immerse yourself in the feeling, but know you're doing it. So you're staying conscious, but you're allowing the feeling to process through your system while remaining a conscious observer of it. And you're loving it like a parent, so that
Okay.
finally those young parts in you feel seen, heard, loved, understood, allowing that energy to move through your system and be processed. And then, boom, all that energy now becomes free for something new.
That is so true. That is so
Yeah,
true. I get
yeah,
that. I get that. And
yeah.
how about when it comes to like certain people that like kind of have numbed themselves to like their emotions, especially like negative emotions like fear or anger? Like how can like people like not be numb to that, but also channel that positively or positively, or in a way that it's not detrimental to themselves?
Yeah, and we're seeing a lot of that right now. There's a lot
Yeah.
of what we would call sacred rage, sacred anger, and a lot of fear right now in the world, because
Yeah.
everything is being kind of really shaken up, to put it lightly. to
That is putting it
women,
on.
yeah, yeah, women too. A lot of wow, because of the things that are kind of becoming really more exposed, and people are also feeling a lot of existential angst, because they couldn't believe could be this bad. They couldn't believe people could do things that horrific to other people, because we tend to do a lot of this,
Yeah.
to protect ourselves too. But we've come to a point where we can't do that anymore, because you can't heal or integrate what you don't look at. and wait, so we have to look at it in order to transform it. Sad but true, I know, and it's painful, I get it,
Yep.
right? So fear itself, and I know there's a lot of phrases about fear, and it can definitely hinder us. If I had given into my fear, I wouldn't be doing what I do now, right? But
True.
I couldn't. The pull was too strong because I was scared. I wanted to get off the freeway and drive home instead of going to this first class. I was really scared, right? But it was like my soul kind of pulled me through it, and I made it. But fear. Um, Fear also can mobilize you. So it depends how you deal with it, right? But like most people are afraid of dying, and that's why we have all these existential problems, that people get, why they don't want to feel, and why they don't want to take a risk, why they can't step out of their comfort zone, why they can't leave bad relationships, all of this kind of stuff, right? But um, to, and we, as a medium, I could say there is no death. Life is continuous. I know this, right? I know this to be true. I have had too many experiences, uh, really like crazy paranormal synchronicities with spirit world and things like that, that I know this to be true, that our consciousness moves on, right? Too. But I still have, little bits of like not wanting to die, and I know that my life is continuous, but I take care of my health, and I don't want to have a health issue and things like that. And I love my family here. I want to live. So my fear of dying, from my human reality, is because I want to live. And that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Wanting to live, wanting to love, wanting to like make the best of this life while I'm here. So there's a good part of fear, right? And
Yeah.
sometimes it can, so it's how you use it, how you use the energy. And sometimes we can also reframe fear as excitement, because it's the same kind of response in our nervous system. The knots we get in our stomach, the
Yeah.
butterflies and everything like that, like your body's like mobilizing you and giving you energy, and it's just like how you frame it. So advanced athletes, for example, they're like, I'm not scared, I'm excited. So they've learned to reframe so that they're in the zone, they're in the power, they're in the flow. And that's when you're not scared of anything, when you're in the flow and everything. So that's super cool. Now, anger and rage, that's a whole nother kind of thing
Vibration
too,
in itself.
right? Because, there's few people who are given permission from a societal level to be angry. And everybody else, you're going to get labeled, the angry woman, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you do that, right? And so we've learned, as speaking from a feminine perspective, we've learned to internalize it in, and almost like harm to ourselves. In other words, we hold it in. And so we might say, oh, I'm not angry, and that's just because, like, you're right, you become numb to it too. And so um, I don't know if this is factually true, but I read something recently that said like 70 to 90% of the people who go to rage rooms to like break stuff are women.
I've yet to go to a rage room, but
Me
my
too.
girl, yeah, I've yet to go, but I know like a bunch of my homegirls and a bunch of like my girlfriends, not my girlfriends, but my girlfriends, they
Yeah.
love going to rage rooms and like axe throwing and anything that's like kind of destructive. They're into it, and I look at them like, okay, I'm gonna stay away from you. But I love them. I love them.
Well, the good part is that's a conscious way to move the energy. It's a
Yeah,
conscious way to express the energy and get it out of your body. And that's, to me, that's healthy than to get triggered and just lose your shit, and
yeah.
then have to go and clean up a mess afterwards, right?
No, that's
So
definitely that's a big fact. Yeah,
yeah, I also highly recommend that everybody find their tribe, or at least one person that will hold space for them, that you can just blah, 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 dump it all out without any judgment. So my friends know, and we're all spiritual and everything like that, but sometimes we just need to be human. We just need to be a teenager, maybe. And we
yeah.
need to just like say what we feel, that blah, 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 blah. And no one judges. We just go, yep, yep, you know,
No, I feel you because
that's a, right.
no,
And
'cause
for someone to, biggest gift,
yep,
biggest gift.
I
Yeah.
feel you because my homeboys are exactly like that. Like we're able to just come out, say whatever that we want to each other, no matter what it is. It could be something that's bothering us or whatever. They're a pack of
Yeah.
assholes, but I love them. You know what I mean?
They're your pack of assholes.
They're my pack of assholes. So what? But when you have that kind of like stagnant energy inside of you, right? It could
Yeah.
be fear, it could be anger, it could be rage, it could be, all these things.
Yeah.
How does that like affect us, like like spiritually and internally?
Um, this is what I would get concerned if I would get concerned about health issues
Okay.
that it could give to people too, and um, holding you back from your ability to live your best life. And I would also be concerned about at some point, it goes sideways on you and you explode, and then now we're in a cleanup, right? Now we're into a lot of regret for that too, and so and we've seen that happen on the news plenty of time where someone's exploded and then just gone really out of character and done things that they can't recover from anymore
Right.
too. So that's where I'd be really concerned. But what I want to say is no emotion is bad or wrong. We label it as such, but that's what makes us suppress it. And so, like anger, um, uh, anything that we deem as bad or wrong as an emotion, they all have a sacred space because it's all one big rainbow of emotions. So it's how we learn to respond to them, how we hold space for ourselves, and what we choose to do with that matters, right? And so spirit, God, source, whatever you want to call it, they're not judging us because we're mad. They're like,
True.
okay, you're mad. You're experiencing madness, right? You're experiencing being mad. There's no judgment there, right? So, but we might call that our darkness if you want to. That's okay, whatever you want to call it. But until we make peace with our darkness and love ourselves as we are, everybody is inherently on a spiritual level beautiful and perfect.
Yeah.
The light in them. Now, behavior, but you see unintegrated behavior. You see plenty of adults out there in the world, especially people in power, that are unintegrated. So that means they are not fully mature adults for their age, uh, uh, mentally, emotionally, or spiritually. And we see the ramifications of that too. And so when we're willing to do the work, show up for ourselves, and it's hard stuff, but you mature from that, and then you're able to control your responses much better, and then you don't have parts going renegade and rogue on you and doing all of
No,
that
I get
because
you. I
they
get
will.
you. And and how important
Yeah.
is it to become, in your terminology, integrated with like your, I don't know how to kind of like phrase it, but like be like maturely integrated at your age, I guess. I think that's what I'm trying to ask.
Yeah, yeah, yes, yeah, exactly. And so, that requires experience, and it requires willingness to learn and to change,
Yeah.
and to step out of your comfort zone. So, of course, a lot of different things, but I highly recommend everybody find some kind of self development route. That's your key to success in life. That's your key to getting rid of blocks. That's your key to feeling free. Because when you're in alignment with your soul, you're now a conscious player. So if you think of life as kind of a video game, you're in
Yeah.
the game and it feels like somebody else is on the remote controls, controlling your life, but when you integrate, and you become in alignment with your soul, with your higher aspect of you, then you're you're in it. And then you actually feel like you've got some agency in there too, because it's like you're seeing from the eyes of your higher self too. So that's really helpful. People say if they say they want that, this is a way to get there. If that makes sense too. Carl Jung, he says, I have my short version of that, but he says, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life and you will call it fate. So,
True.
and it's true. And my short version is whatever you run from will chase you. And
That's a
what we're running
that's a
from is ourselves.
that is true. So how do we like turn that around? Instead of like running, we kind of like chase our higher selves, like, and how much of it, when we are transforming, how much of it is it like our spirit guides or like our higher selves versus us just putting in the action to actually change and, consciously saying, you know what, I'm in this rut. I need to move forward. I need to, have a better perception of life, or, just be more positive in life. How much of that is like our higher selves kind of like pulling us, and how much of is it just like, is it just us saying, you know what, I need to put this action into play?
Yeah, yeah. That is a great question. And that's probably like your golden question of the day too. Because we'll get transformed whether we like it or not, so it's
True.
like so when we actually take it upon ourselves to do the work, it does seem like maybe it's not gonna the ride might be a little smoother for us as we go through transformation. But I went through transformation as soon as I started developing, and I was meditating a lot, and so as soon as I tapped into the energy, it was like boom, I was in the dark night of the soul, and that's like a spiritual depression, and I didn't have any control over it. That was not something that was in my control. I would say, and even though sometimes people, when they're going through transformation, they may perceive experiences as external, it's really actually happening in your psychic reality via your higher self, like running the show, showing you things, giving you experiences in your psychic reality to help you understand things. And so you go down a rabbit hole. So once you're down the rabbit hole with Alice in Wonderland and in the Land of Oz, you don't come back the same person
I
anymore.
feel you.
Many dark nights of the soul for myself. I've been full blown Kundalini awakening where all of my, energetic system came online. I did not have I had what I call a living near death experience, which happened at the same time. So for my purposes, I'm like, I died. But I didn't physically all the way die, but it changed me so much that I can look back at it and go, yeah, I was, I died, right, in my own way.
I get
And
you on that.
so it's both. Yeah. So it's both. And I wish I could say, that going through all that was enough to like make everything like rosy and but
Definitely.
I still had to do a lot more work after that,
Yeah.
in on a more like human conscious level and things like that too. But I can look at it now, I can look at all of these years and see why, because if if it was easy for me, then I wouldn't have the full understanding that I do, and I wouldn't be able to help other people that I do. So it's like, if you're in a dark night of the soul, it's like the first thing to know is like nothing's wrong, is just to know that you're in it. So when you understand what that feels like, what that experience is, when you just understand that you're in it, then you'll be able to remember that you'll get out of it, right? And that's a process where you can only surrender to it, and it can be dark and it can be brutal, because you're now hearing unconscious thoughts become conscious, and you can hear a lot of like negative, dark, intrusive thoughts about yourself, none of which are true. And that's the key, is finally I'm getting chills as I talk about this, so someone will listen to this and get something from it, which is really cool.
Hey, I'm
And
getting something from this right now
yeah,
because I have
yay.
a bunch of questions, so I'm waiting.
Yeah, yeah, I'm happy to answer too. And it's like the good part is like when you surrender to the
Yeah.
process, and learn to kind of get the hang of it and understand that, understand like what's happening is as things are coming to the surface to basically to be seen and cleared and understood. And then you surrender, then it tends to switch, right? And so
Yeah.
I've had experiences. I'm listening to all the dark thoughts, and either I get to the point where I'm like, God, I can't take it anymore, or I'm at the point where just like I don't care. Just keep them coming, whatever, whatever, whatever. And then it just stops like that. And then I realize, and then the truth appears to me, and I realize like the way that spirit world sees us, just completely beautiful, perfect light. They see us as light, pure light. The personality and all that. This is experiences we're having. It's illusionary too. Doesn't mean that the human reality doesn't matter. Like it does. Like I want to help make it better,
Yeah.
but I also understand the spiritual side of it as well too. And so every time I channel, what continuously said is reminding people that they're beautiful and perfect as they are. And I remind myself I'm beautiful, perfect as I am, and always growing, always transforming, always changing. So you're accepting what is, loving what is, and embracing growth, embracing change, embracing transformation. And it's okay if one of the leaves on your flower, gets a little dark, it's like sprinkle a
No,
little
I get
magic dust on it. It'll be just fine.
it'll be good. But how? All right. So just how does like somebody know that they're going through a transformation? And I'm asking because of the fact that I feel that I'm kind of going through something similar to that, but like terms like divine growth, divine isolation, and things that people go through while they're transforming, while they're being transformed by the universe and within themselves. Like they'll be like isolated. They'll, the of course the dark night of the soul, and like they feel that they want to achieve more, but they're still battling like that internal kind of thing that they haven't really gotten over. Like, how does one know that they're going through that transformation? Like that, the universe is calling for them to like grow.
Yeah. And the 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 larger lens is it's all spiritual at the end of the day.
Yeah,
But in a more narrowed down lens, if you're in a dark night of the soul versus what we might call a clinical depression, they do have differences, because when you're in a dark night of the soul, it can kind of stop and start for you, so you can still kind of do things that you have to do. So if you have to pick up your kids, or if you have to go to work or something like that, it seems like it will kind of magically lift. And then as soon as you're alone again, boom, you're down again,
yeah,
and it's like you're in this, and it has a very like trance dreamy like feel to it when you're in it as well too. But you're right, it's very isolating. There's a need to just kind of like hibernate and be alone, because no one really understands it unless you've got friends who have been there, and then
yeah,
they can offer you, a hand in the dark and stuff like that. But it can get really, really hard. It's like people who have been through the worst spiritual depressions and transformations, like you're begging God to to, to help you, and you even you experience, this is one of the key things that I'm not sure if a lot of people say who talk about this, is that what you experience is the far end of the spectrum of loneliness and isolation, like you said, the far end of the spectrum, to where you even feel like you've been rejected from God, him, her, itself, right? And then you're like, I will do anything to be rejoined to you. I'll even give up my existence, everything, whatever I have to do, right? It's
yeah,
the total far end of the spectrum of loneliness, right? And then once that energy moves, you're on the total other end of the spectrum of complete connection, and you're like, that leaf is the most beautiful leaf I've ever seen in my entire life. I mean, it's like everything is beautiful. And I mean, and then the glow, like I would have the shine and people would be like, you're glowing. What happened? They literally could see me glowing because I was in the shine. I call it the shine parts too, but you're in extreme beauty and connection. And it's like fully connected to everything too. It's amazing to watch how you go through like both extremes. And so what it's shown me is that on this spiritual human experience, we came for it all, right?
yeah,
We came for the dark and the light and the in between, with that too. But that's what's happening. You're experiencing far end of the spectrum of loneliness, far into the spectrum of connection. And then what do you do with it after that? So it gives you extreme empathy and compassion for people, because you see, their suffering, their pain, and you can't do this kind of work and heal people if you can't understand suffering and you can't have empathy for them. I'm not talking about like codependent sympathy. I'm just talking about empathy. Like, I see you, I feel you, you matter, right? People need to
yeah,
know that they matter. They need to know that they belong. They need to know that somebody sees them too. And of course, we have to do that for ourselves. I matter. I belong. I see me. So they both count. They both count. So we're really bringing in these two aspects and merging them together and coming back into oneness, coming back into wholeness. And what I'd love to see is I'd love to see this planet with all of its beauty, because there's so much beauty on this
the
planet
planet.
still.
Yes,
But I'd love to see, I'd love to see these really dark challenges be lifted up into something higher. And I do believe collectively we are ascending. We just got to be a little bit more patient, but things are moving really fast right now too. And then here's the other part: is whatever you do in you is going to reflect what you see outside of yourself. So they go together. So the more people that decide to awaken and decide to take personal responsibility for their own experience and for their own growth instead of blaming, everything around them or going into defense mechanisms to
Mm.
protect their little one inside, right? The more we make that route and mature spiritually, emotionally, mentally, along with the physically, um, then you start reaching this critical mass of awakened people. And I don't say that from a superiority uh, aspect. I say that from we need more awakened people to reach this critical mass to facilitate moving into a more balanced part of that spectrum that we were talking about, right? Because
No,
we're
I get you.
we're a little far over on the dark end over here, and we want to kind of let's move the dial at least kind of more
Yeah, we
towards the
definitely need to move that dial back. But
please God, yes.
I've never really asked this, and now that we're talking about awakened, right? Or
Yeah,
awakenings, right? How
yeah,
does a person know that they have awoken or in process of awakening themselves? Because that term has been tossed around a lot, and I also
yeah.
feel that in the last couple of years, people have
Mhm.
kind of like misconstrued that term. I've awakened versus being woke, and and that woke
Yeah.
that word woke now has like a negative connotation to it versus when people want to be
Yeah.
awakened.
I would call that, yeah, it's hard
Yeah,
because we're still talking about beliefs. And then some
yeah,
people are thinking that they're superior because they know something that you don't, or they believe something that you don't. So we gotta be careful because that can be what we might call tricky ego. And I use the word ego very sensitively because people use that word very harshly mostly. And I use it very sensitively because I'm still about loving what is and understanding it's all spiritual, right? But it can trick people into kind of a superiority complex kind of happening there too. So I'm not talking about that, and beliefs can change. And even what we think we know can change too. There's very few things in this reality that are like what I call in cannot deny land.
yeah.
you
I
know
got you.
um, and so that's always changing. So but when you're awakening, it's like you're becoming aware that there's more to your reality than you thought, right? So
Yeah,
that there starts to be a questioning. A lot of people have this in midlife crisis. Is this all there is? Right? Or who am I? What is my identity now that, my kids are grown, or now that I'm midlife, or, now that I've gotten a divorce, or now that I've been through a natural disaster or had to move countries or change jobs, like who am I now? Right. So something can trigger your awakening and cause this sort of existential crisis within you to question your reality, question yourself, who you think you are, question your beliefs, um, questioning spirit world. So somebody
yeah,
passes away, you go into awakening because you want to know what happened to them, and then people go on this, go on this the deep dive of exploration with that too. So typically, though, the signs that you're in an awakening versus maybe something more of on a clinical route of a clinical depression or
yeah,
something like that, um, is a lot of signs and synchronicities start showing up. So you're going to start seeing numbers a lot, triple
yeah,
numbers, license plates, little messages coming, and you realize like your head got turned to look at the clock, and it's like it keeps happening. Like I go downstairs and I like turn and look at the clock, and it's 9:11 every night. Like, how does that keep happening? Why am I being woken up at 3:33 in the morning every single
yeah,
night? Why is that happening? Why am I having these little deja vu things? Why are people saying things to me that I just thought of, like an hour ago? Why does that
yeah,
song all of a sudden tell me a different message? So that's a big one. These little bit of paranormal spooky things start kind of
yeah,
happening a little bit too. And it can be exciting, but it can really trip people out if they're not used to it, because they may be living a very like earthly life right here. And then that starts happening and they're like, whoa, right? Too.
I get you
um,
on that. I
people's,
really get you on that,
yeah.
man.
Yeah. And people's, also their abilities can start to come online. And this is where it gets a little tricky because like you may start hearing spirit, you may become aware of your loved ones around you, start feeling them energetically, or you start hearing things, or and then you think you're going crazy, you think you're going mad, only to find out that your sensors, your extra
Yeah.
sensories has started to come online for you, right? So your soul may just drive a lot of this for you, and you don't have any say over it. Sorry, we don't have as much free will as we think we do. And it's like spirit, when it's your time, it's your time. If your soul
True.
said, we're coming into this reality, I'm going to be you, you're my avatar, and when you turn 45, boom, something's going to happen and trigger you, and I'm guiding the process with you, but I also want to have this experience as you not knowing what's happening, until later, right? And so it's a big old rabbit hole, but that's, and your beliefs are going to start falling away to how you thought the world worked, how you thought you were. Those are going to start changing, and a lot of confusion can happen with that too. And also be a lot of excitement too, and be like,
Yeah.
wow, there's this whole other world. Like there's this magical world. Spirit world's super magical too. Right. I mean, I love it. I love it. And I'm not talking about like magic as some people might think of it. But whatever, good or bad or whatever like that. I'm talking about just like the sparkle of it, and the what they I love it. I love the magic of spirit. It's very high frequency. It's very poetic. It's very, like, a lot of rhyming happens too. It's very uplifting too. There's a lot of humor in that too, on that, those kind of like colors of the rainbow within the spirit world too. And I love it. All my friends and I, we're all psychic. We're all picking up on each other. And so we have this running joke every time we pick up on something. Oh, you must be psychic. And it's just the corniest joke ever, but it never gets old. We have so much fun. It's fun being in tune. It's really, really fun. So I know it can be really scary for people, but it's also really fun too. And you get to help people, and you get to be part of the wonder again that we had when we were a child, when we looked at the world through a child's eyes,
Yeah.
and a little ladybug or a whatever, an ant on the sidewalk, like, was worth 20 minutes of observation when you were a child,
True.
and it's like you get that back again, and it's so cool.
And I really do believe that the world now needs that magic, has needs that
Absolutely.
childlike, I don't want to say innocence, but have that childlike perspective where we could bring back, beliefs, and bring back, solidarity, and bring back that I don't want to say camaraderie, but when children meet new people, they'll just go up to them and say hi, and try to like figure that person out.
Yeah.
Now is like everybody's like super or at least as adults, we're super standoffish. We're like, you can walk into a room filled with people that you don't know, and you'll just stick to the people that you do know instead of introducing yourself, and kind of having that childlike curiosity towards others.
Yeah.
And we really do need that in 2026. And
Absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely. I have my own live streams that I do too, and I love doing it too. But there's one that I co-host with two other gals that we call it Messages from the Enchanted Realms, and we do like fairy readings and angel readings and dragon. We get very, very silly and a little bit naughty on that too. That's that
yeah,
that stream once a month. We do that, and I'm not plugging it. I just want to express like why it's popular is because we have really high rating numbers that people come on to watch this live. And I'm just like, people love this. And I'm
yeah,
like, people need this. They need to be part. We've all got our little magic wands that we're waving around that we got at the Halloween store or whatever, like that, and like, we have so much fun being silly and being childlike, but we're also giving readings. And so we're helping people and healing people at the same time. They love it. They want to be part of the magic. They want to be uplifted. They want to laugh with us too. And you're absolutely right. We need that right now. We get so damn serious.
always,
Laughter is high vibe.
yeah,
Fun
man.
play is high vibe. And if people want to develop their gifts, one of the easiest things they can do is play, use their imagination. It's very right brained. That's where all of that is happening. The left brain is keeping us safe and making sense of things and giving us order and helping us to live our lives. God bless my left brain, right? But the right brain, where the imagination's happening, the creativity, that's where our connection to spirit, our
That's
consciousness
where
is
the
going.
gold's at.
Yeah.
That's where all the
Yes.
gold is at, man. But
Yeah.
like, and
Exactly.
and I could see why people would tune in, because it's like, you know, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what your age is, right? You know, there's that one thing that, you know, we as adults, quote unquote, I don't put in this in quote, that we know isn't real, quote unquote, right? And you know, when we hear about things like fairies, dragons, angels, it brings up this like childlike fascination of like, all right, cool, we know what's here on this earth, like at least from our perception, but
Hmm.
that like pushes our imagination back to that stage where we're like, ooh, what if a dragon's real, or what if
Right.
fairies are real and we just can't see them and we just
Right.
can't perceive them, and it pushes that like curiosity, and that, and it's not something malicious, it's not something, you know, ill-intended, but it's
Exactly.
something that is just pure and like curious, and that's the most beautiful
Exactly.
thing that we could have, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely right. And that's a really good way to manifest, because if you're in that creative flow, and you're in the happiness and the joy of it. Joy is pretty high vibe.
Yeah,
So it's like,
facts.
find your joy, find play. If you've got kids, go play with them. Do art. I don't care if you draw stick figures. Do draw stick figures, whatever you can. If it's whatever crafty or music, listen to music, create music, sing, dance, go buy yourself a balloon or a ice cream cone or something for your little one inside too. It's just like those are all really good ways to get your connection to your spiritual self open again too. And that's easy, you know.
Just lean into your imagination, and yet again, and this is what I've also learned too, like with talking to like so many people, is that creativity doesn't stop at like the arts, you know what I mean? If you're a tinkerer or an inventor, go out and invent something. If you're a mathematician, go work on the world's hardest problem, go challenge your creativity, get in that flow, because of the fact that it's not only arts that we're talking about when we're talking about
Absolutely.
creativity, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Creation is creation, that's creation, you know, and
Exactly.
that's the simplest way to put it. But I do have
Right.
one question that you kind of sparked my interest. You were talking about
Okay.
dragon readings or dragon messages. What's up with that, real quick, before I let you go?
And two, I also want to say, because you talked about the gold too, and it's like that's what transformation is all about with the dark night of the soul, is you're finding the gold. You're getting to the spiritual gold, because not only are you uncovering maybe the parts of yourself that you don't want to look at, where maybe you've done things that you wish you didn't do, or parts of your personality that you tried to hide to even yourself. But there's parts of you that are, maybe it was a hidden artist,
Yeah,
maybe it was a hidden mathematician, but your school and family structure didn't encourage that. So for me, it was, like keeping my gifts quiet, and subdued until I finally couldn't anymore. Right. That's the gold coming out, because there's so much goodness that's hidden inside too, that that you were born with, that maybe you haven't had an opportunity to express. And I would love to see people do that while they're here, instead of waiting.
yeah,
You might be able to do that when you get over spirit world, but I would love people to do that here, to be able to like open up to all of their potential while they're here too. With the dragons, it to me, it's another spiritual realm, like the fairies kind of thing.
yeah.
So we're kind of going into like elementals and earth, spirits and things like that too. They're very super magical too, and um, they can help us get in touch with it, bringing this full circle. We were talking about anger in the beginning too.
Mm,
They can help us get in touch with our anger too. Right. And so, like, when the sort of like the essence or the spirit of the dragon comes in, they can help us to kind of like maybe create a boundary when we need to, when that's been crossed, when that's been
okay.
like taken advantage of too. And so we wouldn't want that energy running wild. Right. But it can come in and help us. When we need it too. And that was kind of introduced to me by my friend who I actually do that show with, Message from a Gender. Her name is Shannon, and she was talking about that. She introduced that to me too. So that kind of showed up for me at a time where I needed to have more boundaries, and I didn't have good boundaries, and I don't even know if I knew what they were very well at that time too. And I channeled the name because I have a little ability to channel the names of the dragons. It's like my little thing that I do, right? And then
Dope.
they typically have some kind of special meaning to them. So whenever I get the name, I look it up, like spiritual meaning of that name. It always is something cool to it too. So I channeled the name of my dragon, and it was feminine, and her name was Priscilla. And I know some people might hear that name and think it's like super like girly, like girly and childish and stuff like
Yeah.
that. I don't know. But I looked up the name and it meant ancient and venerable. And I'm like,
Nice.
that's my dragon.
I
she
feel you, girl.
she has a little place on my shoulder, helping me to have a boundary kind of thing too. But
Nah, I feel you.
I like to the people like it. There's something about the energy of them that is empowering. So I think what
Yeah.
I love about the essence of that spirit is just the sort of the empowerment of it too. And interestingly enough, they can be portrayed as these very negative creatures that are, gonna like light us all on fire and all these things like that. That's not how I'm working with the dragons.
Yeah.
It's more of it's the magic of them, and their kind of ability to be a bit of a protector for us too, and what they have to teach us as well too. And so what I've learned is I got taken out of I'll try to make this really quick because I know we're coming to an end, but
Nah, go ahead. Take
I
your time.
was okay. I was trained as an evidential medium. So that's what I am. I am an evidential medium. So I was trained to connect with our loved ones in spirit, those that
Dope.
have passed, and maybe guides too, right? And bring in evidence, and also then bring in the experience, because I can't, bringing in evidence isn't enough. It will prove to you that I'm not a fraud and that I actually have your grandfather here, right? But I also need to bring in the essence of their personality, and to bring in a healing experience with them too, so that you feel you've gotten some, you feel that they're not just proven to you, but they're here with you, and you have that heart experience too. So that's how I was trained. But then I went into all of the spiritual awakening and spirit world, and my soul was like, no, no, there's so much more. We are so much more than that too. There's, think of it as this big giant rainbow of colors that we can't even see because our eyes can only see so many colors. All of these colors in spirit world, less evidential maybe, but if they bring you healing, if they uplift you, if they help you on your journey and help to teach you, because ultimately your spiritual journey is know thyself, know you, become in alignment with your soul, and you're empowered in that way too. So all of this is coming in to help you do that too. And spirit was like, you're not going to stay in that box. You're coming over here, right? And you're going to open up. And so when my students come to me and we practice, I'm like, this is an evidential mediumship class. But if a guide comes in, an angel comes in, a spirit animal comes in, they are welcome here. Because if I limit the flow of spirit, I'm limiting their ability to connect. And we just don't do that in my world, the way that I teach too. But I had to be taken out of that box. It was a little painful. A few people went their other way because that's how they wanted to be. And so you have doors closed and then you have new doors open. Very painful sometimes. This is the way that it is. And,
True.
but the magic, the wonder, the awe, the fun, the beauty, we love it. We just absolutely love it too.
You gotta. You gotta love it. And you gotta love the magic that this world brings, and the world that we don't normally see brings. And we have to bring that magic back to us as
Yeah.
adults. Kids still have that magic. They still have that, you
Yeah.
know, genuine curiosity and that genuine love. But
It's so beautiful. Yeah.
Jen, before we go, I always ask this
Yeah.
question to all my guests. Do
Mhm.
you have any final thoughts, words of wisdom, or advice for the roomies?
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm so grateful to share this space with you. You have great energy. You're a beautiful light, by the way, too.
Thank
So
you.
it's like this has been very fun for me too. I'm like, well, like, thank you, good
Hey,
job, guys.
hey,
Good job.
I'm trying to. I listen, like I said in the beginning, I try to make it as fun as possible. I want to have
Yeah,
conversations with people, and this is the best type of way to have a conversation when
yeah,
it's
super,
light
super
and we're
comfortable.
just flowing.
Yeah, yeah, super comfortable. Thank you. Let me see. I'm gonna just see if I can just tune in for just let's get these in there. Um, what I'm getting right now is that what we call spirit world is not far away from us. It's within us and around us all the time. So the realities are merged together. And I know it can be a bit mind bending. But if we take a pause and are willing to shift our focus a little bit, we'll start to see proof of that everywhere we go with those signs and with those synchronicities. I would also like to tell people, just remind them um, that we've got this together, that we just need to stick together, stay focused on the love. It's a time that reminds us, and it's funny, my light just flashed when I said that.
Yeah,
It's a
I'm
time,
like,
yeah, it's a time that
it's
reminds us
true, girl.
whenever, I know, right? Whenever something really hard happens, like a natural disaster, or right now the climate around with the world with the wars and everything like this too, it reminds you how precious life is. And it's like, so hug your family, hug your friends, um, work on yourself so that your triggers don't separate you from the people that you love. And that's going to help you be so much more happier in life too. But this is a time of togetherness, of closeness, of bonding with each other, because all we get to take with us when we pass to spirit is our love and our memories and our experiences. And your life matters. You matter. You're special. You were born into this world, and you matter. Ooh. My light bulb is doing some funny tricks, right?
Yep.
to
That because you
and
telling the truth, girl. You letting the world
yeah,
know.
thank you. So awakening is choosing to live, not just to be kind of like existing day to day and day, like Groundhog Day always, and it's always kind of like the same thing, different outfit, but choosing to actually like really live and be an active participant in your life and then with the people around you, and making it the best that you can. That takes a decision. That takes a willingness to step out of your box, step out of your comfort zone into the unknown, which is really fucking scary. I get it. But if you don't do it, you'll never know what was on the other side of that threshold too. And so everything that I've been through, as hard as it was, including like almost dying physically and spiritually, made me want to live, right? So if I can share what I've learned and what I've gotten with anybody here, I can tell you that you matter and your life matters, and make it the best that you can. And we will get through all of this. It is going to get better. It's going to be crazy, but it is going to get better. And we are ascending, and there's plenty of evidence all around, but sometimes things have to dismantle before they can be rebuilt better. So when your own tower falls in your life, and it will probably, your own tower is going to fall. Those are those like those big moments. Um, you'll build it back up, bigger, better, shinier, with more sparkles. Same with this world too. Yeah. So and I love you. That's what I want to say is I love you.
Roomies,
I could have just
remember.
said that and skipped all the rest. I could have just said I love you.
No, nah. All of that was super necessary because the world that we live in needs to hear that. And roomies, remember, before we go, bring the magic back to life. Do the things that excite you. Happiness usually lives on the other side of fear, and let your little spirit dragon light a fire under your ass. And with that, peace out.